All right, 30 teams, 30 minutes solo. So we're doing 15 minutes, and we are doing the Oklahoma City Thunder. So the solo ones, I'm gonna just do the teams that uh, not really, nobody's really expecting nothing from them. This team, man, you could have 7 people here. It would be hard to do 30 minutes on them, man. This team is just you have to respect what they're trying to do out there. You have to respect their GM, respect the organization. They were dealt a bad hand with Russell Westbrook and uh, Paul George wanting to leave, and they made the best out of a bad situation, stockpiling a lot of picks and making a lot of trades. The trades continued this offseason, traded Chris Paul, traded um, traded Steven Adams. And then now they have a lot of players who I think can help teams. You have George Hill, Al Horford, Justin Jackson, TJ Leaf, Mike Muscala, Andre Roberson, Luguentz Dort. His defense on Harden was fantastic, fantastic. Um, Trevor Ariza. These are players that I think that contending teams, should be very interested in. These are players that teams that are on the fringe of making the playoffs should be very interested in. One trade that I really loved this whole offseason was a trade of Al Horford for Buddy Hield on Sacramento. And it's a situation where I think that they're going to be able to defend with Al Horford better than they're defending right now. And he doesn't compromise spacing. He's someone that can shoot from three. He's someone that can shoot from 20 feet, which allows Bagley to get all the benefits of playing big with none of the negative repercussions. So that's just one trade that I could see for them. As far as their actual team, one guy who I really, really was high on was Bazley. He reminded me of a young Lamar Odom, just the way his movements are. It seems more aggressive, attacking. Is someone that is going to get a ton of shots on the team. Him and Shai Gilgeous Alexander. I think that it's great to have a player like Chris Paul be on the team. You can see what it takes to be a superstar in the league. He's a veteran guy. That there was an article that came out about James Harden, how he controlled everything, the flights leave when he wants them to leave. This is someone Chris Paul, who has that type of power and that type of authority, but the way that he uses it is not to do things like go to Vegas and, take vacations off, which you can do. I'm not attacking it, but he's a more serious guy. He's a more, military type guy where he's going to everybody show up on time. Everybody do things the right way. Let's practice the right way. Let's show up the right way. And I think that's a good way for a young player to learn. So I think that not only getting those picks for Chris Paul and then able to trade him again to get more picks, but the experience that you can get from that type of player bestowed onto your young kids to see. So this team is obviously Bazley and Shai Gilgeous Alexander. Those are the two players that people are coming to see. Those are the two players that people are interested in how their progression is going to work out. They had a couple of draft picks, none of them highly touted. So, if they pop, they pop. I'm not really a college basketball or overseas guy who looks at drafts, so I really don't know what to say about them. Maybe one of them pops, maybe they don't. But the two guys who the one that everyone's expecting something from is Shai Gilgeous Alexander, and I think Bazley is someone that got on everyone's radar during the playoffs. Now they have all these picks. It'll be interesting to see what they turn out to be. A lot of these picks are down the road. They have the Clippers pick. It feels like in perpetuity. And once again, this is one of those drafts where there are 7, 8 players who would have been the number 1 overall pick this year. So last year, every team in the West had like a pathway and had, a feasible way of getting to the playoffs. And this year, obviously, the Thunder have taken themselves out of it. So this is a great year to tank. They could have the worst record in the NBA easily. I think easily could have the worst record in the NBA. And that's not a bad thing in this draft. With the talent that's out there, they have the kid who's just right up the street, Cade Cunningham, who's the number 1 overall pick, potential player, point guard. Even though that kind of is, Shai is a little bit of a tweener in the league, but I think he can play. He can be stable at the 1. But Cade come in, and then if you do get him and you like Cade, you can always trade Shai. So that's a very interesting thing to me with the team. They also have a lot of these players who I wouldn't mind getting a second look at, like a Justin Jackson, Admiral Schofield, someone who has size and a nice in-between game, a Frank Jackson, a Ty Jerome. These are good players to get a second look at and see what you have. Hamidou Diallo, another player of that ilk. So I think it'll be interesting to see what they do and, just give the young guys burn. They're one of the few teams, I think really the only team in the league that's embracing the tank this year. Every other team could squint their eye and say, hey, this is our path to the playoffs. We are expecting these guys to pop. And everyone knows with this team, this is not a team that's built to stay. I think it's a built to trade team, especially with a guy like Al Horford. These are guys that I think are going to be sought and going to be in demand, especially with the way that Anthony Davis and Jokic played and having to deal with Embiid, having to deal with Giannis. These are players that are going to be in demand, and I think a team that's contending is definitely going to want to look at like a Hal Horford, Trevor Ariza. You can never have too many wings in the league that can defend and shoot threes at a moderate clip. So I think that there's more trades for them to make as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. Most impactful player would be Shai if he takes his game up another level, becomes a pseudo all-star type player. Then you could talk about. I still don't think that even if he pops and Bazley pops, they could make the playoffs. But if he becomes a pseudo all-star player, then maybe you speed up this rebuild. Maybe you package a lot of these picks for current players, package a lot of these interesting players and salaries together to get an impact player who might be interested in staying. Maybe a Blake Griffin. I've been looking all offseason for a Blake Griffin trade. They don't have that much salary tied in long term. Maybe that's a landing spot. He's from Oklahoma originally. I know he would prefer to spend his time in LA and in New York because of his love for media. But I think functionally there wouldn't be really a difference in being in Detroit and being in Oklahoma. Having a hometown kid, that might be something that's interesting for them. So if Shai pops, maybe that might be something they look at. The most intriguing player would definitely be Bazley to me. Just intrigued. The guy just oozes talent. I think Lamar Odom was someone who didn't get the most out of his talent. I think he should have been a multi-time All-Star. And he talked about that towards the end of the career. And I don't think he has the passing feel that Lamar Odom had. They used to call him the good team. I mean, he just had the total package. But I think he's a more aggressive offensive player. So what you lose in passing and distributing, you get in scoring. So I'm just interested to see what he does and what the expanded role means for him as a player. Their playoff opportunities, I think, are zero. I think we're the only teams in the league you could say zero that I don't think they're going to try. A lot of people thought the same thing with Chris Paul last year, but I think that's a more testament to the player that he was and how he brought him in. And you can still look at there's a Schroeder, there's a Steven Adams. The roster just isn't the same. It's a lot of veterans who, even at their peak, were bit players, were complementary players. Even at his peak, Horford wasn't a 30-point lead the team, put the team on your back guy. George Hill wasn't that either. So, these are guys that once again would fit like a glove on these teams that are trying to contend. George Hill, we saw the way that he shot the ball and he defended at a higher level, would fit like a glove for a lot of these teams that are trying to, see if they can get up into those ranks and contest with the Lakers. So Bazley is definitely my most impactful player. Playoff opportunity 0 to none. And I'm just interested to see what they do. I think that they're a tanking team, worst team in the league record-wise. A lot of rebuilding there, but scared money don't make money, as the GM says. So I'll be interested to see what they do. I saw somewhere that they're a prime candidate to maybe move Marcus, but I thought that was crazy because the owner's from Oklahoma. So I don't see them leaving there anytime soon. They have a very raucous crowd, and fan base. I think we'll probably get towards fans coming back next year, but we'll definitely see what they do. Is a very interesting team. They're willing to take on salary and be a place that you can dump bad contracts if you're willing to attach picks. So I think that they could be a facilitator, of even maybe a James Harden trade. There's always been a talk of teams not being able to do it, but maybe if you add a third team that's willing to take on salary, then teams that people are not really paying attention to could jump in. So it'll be interesting to see that they're rolling the team, because we didn't have that last year, and we definitely have it this year. A team that I think that is truly tanking, but in comparison to a lot of other teams in the league, especially the teams in the East that are going to try to push for the playoffs, a team like the Bulls or the Hornets or the Knicks, I think that those core two players of Shai Gilgeous Alexander and Bazley are better than what any of those other teams have. So they're not in the worst position in the world. Like I said, if Shai pops, if Bazley pops, you could see them switch gears and say, hey, let's bring in Blake Griffin and keep Horford and keep Hill, and let's make a little run at this, and maybe buy out one of the guys if they don't want to be there, but let's make a run at this. I wouldn't be surprised to see that at all. I wouldn't be surprised to see that at all. And Shai had a bad bubble, had a bad playoff series versus Houston, but that was his first playoff series, and then he was just getting his toes wet. And it might be a learning experience for him. The ball wasn't completely in his hands. He's going to have it completely in his hands in a way that it hasn't been in this league. Even his rookie season with the Clippers, he was the starter, but in crunch time, the ball was in Lou Will's hands. So he's going to be the primary facilitator on the team. I think him and Bazley as a 1-2 punch fit very well. You can run pick and roll with them, spread pick and roll. Bazley is someone who can handle the ball and can attack downhill. So I'm interested in this team. Once again, I said that they don't have a chance for the playoffs, I don't think, at all. But they're not someone that it's just hard on the eyes to watch. Once again, I'm interested to see those two players play and how they progress. I think a lot of people in the league are. I definitely think that the Thunder, they have a bright future. And from one thing that their GM has shown is that a willingness to draft well. He drafts really well, and a willingness to make moves and not being scared. And then before we stop talking about them, I'll be remiss to talk about Luguentz Dort. His defense on Harden, I've never seen anyone defend Harden that way. His strength, he's a little bit undersized, but his lateral quickness is tremendous. His strength is tremendous. The guy's built like a running back. The sky is the limit for that guy. If he gets a jumper, he could be a transformative defensive player, because even though he's short, he doesn't play short. He plays with a really strong base. One thing with Harden is he beats you with quickness and he beats you with strength. He couldn't beat him with anything. If Lou Dort was set, it was a problem. I've never seen Harden get defended the way that he got defended by Luguentz Dort. You have, and this is a team that is known to have transformative defenders in Andre Roberson. We'll see if he ever gets back. It doesn't, he played sparingly last year, but it wasn't the Andre Roberson that we were expecting before. So maybe this might be the year that he swings back into it. But Luguentz Dort, that's a name to watch out for. Someone that I think that a lot of contending teams could look out for. So look out for them. So 30 teams, 30 minutes. I'm going to hit all the NBA teams. So check out for us. And I got my kids calling, so I'll get back to you guys soon.